Hey folks, welcome to the city. This is a big update for everything I've done in September. People do ask me all the time how much I've spent, and so far my total is just shy of £4,000 and the part count is over 70,000. I'll go into more detail on that in the future. Anyways, I've done a lot. I've been very busy finishing buildings and vehicles, and it's been great to have the time to do it. I had a week off, and once the kids were in bed, I was in the Lego room from about 8 or 9 at night until 2 AM. So without that week, I wouldn't have been able to get it done. My wife was missing me a bit, but she was happy to watch her trash TV shows on her own without me complaining and picking apart the terrible plot holes and bad acting. So the big thing that I've done is, of course, the front area. I had to rework the jetty for the Pan Am seaplane, and I also rebuilt the corner garage, which is now a pub. I added a lot of rooftop decoration with a large clock on the top of the building and a chimney as well. It also has a small ticket booth out front which sells tickets for the seaplane and for fishing boats. The pub is called the Highlander, as I used the printed windows from the detective's office modular, so it's a Scottish themed pub. And I'm Scottish, so it's a bit of a reference to the many hours of my life being wasted in such places in my youth. And where the garage door was, I've made the main entrance with some signage above and some shields and a sword, which is a reference to the Highlanders. I took the original Octane forecourt away and built the ticket booth there instead. I used the same signage design from the Octane garage, but I printed Pan Am logos and stuck them on instead. There are some more signs like the boat rental one from the fishing shack. You might also recognise the service sign from the Friends Central Park set. The idea was to make it an Art Deco style with a wooden booth, and I think it works quite well, and I've added various versions of old Pan Am logos. One major error I made was the jetty doesn't line up now with the side of the wall. I'll have to change this and extend part of the jetty. Quite funny that I did this and never realised. Speaking of the jetty, I rebuilt it and made it more L-shaped. It now has more space, and I've added some Shell and Octane fueling tanks. There's a wee desk kind of stand for the staff to check the tickets and board the passengers. Something I'll cover in a future video is the plane, because I've modified it. I've given it 3 engines now and a full interior. The side of the jetty now has a wee boarding thingy on a hinge, so it can be dropped down when the plane isn't there. It also means the propellers aren't hitting the side. Next to the pub is another new modular, and this is my branch of Blockbuster Video, which also uses parts from the detective's office modular. And I decided to make quite a modern looking ground floor with the iconic Blockbuster logo printed out on a large tile, and I have posters for Gremlins 2 and E.T. I bought them from a vendor at a Lego show earlier this year, and they're really cool. This building is quite a different design for my city, with a more run-down New York look, but still with a very much Dutch-inspired rooftop. I've added some outdoor seating and a water tower. There's a balcony on the top floor in this alley, and with the alley here I used the graffiti parts from Sanctum Sanctorum here and put bins and bottles around as well. If I slide this out to show you, you can see the large staircase up to the first floor, which is now the detective's office, and the second floor is his apartment. Let's look down here and... oh, it's empty. Well, yeah, I haven't had time to do a proper interior yet, but I definitely will come back to this and make a cool, faithful Blockbuster Video store with lots of other posters and stuff inside it. I used white parts and large windows down here to make it look a wee bit more modern, whereas the rest of the building is meant to be a reference to New York in the 30s, 40s and 50s, which is what the detective's office was meant to be anyway. So he's got his laundry drying outside on this railing, and I really like the balcony and the black windows. There's empty bottles about the place. Yeah, I reckon he spent some time next door in the pub. I really wanted to incorporate a staircase like this into a building again, so I think this works well. It also means I don't lose the full facade of the front of the video store. The Ace Brickman detective sign is on the window above, and I added a printed VHS tape tile next to the Blockbuster sign. I like the way it looks. It's quite a large storefront compared to the pub in particular, so it does stand out, which I really wanted it to. I will show you more of my complete back street here, which has new buildings, but let's move on to this shell garage, which I personally feel is a big standout feature of my city. It is actually a set by the Chinese toy company Kada. It's an official licensed shell set, and I absolutely love it. I have modified it to fit into my city. I've added a lane down this side as well, and put a bunker with plants in it. Most of those are tropical plant builds from their Friends Botanicals set. And yes, it's not Lego, it's one of the only things that isn't Lego, but I really think it adds so much to the city and it's perfect. I've added some 50s looking singers on this bench outside the music store. And I've added a few more figs about the place, but not too many that it clutters it up. I like this head-on view of the city, and I love looking at the water, but this side-on view is one of my favourites too, especially the city square, and especially looking down to the bridge. I've also finished the back of the pub, and there's a big advertisement sign still there for Oma Rusks. And I've got a guy busking with his guitar there. Nothing really changed on this section. The boats and the Italian restaurant. City Square is the same as well. I think it all still looks great. I don't plan on changing anything here. The big new addition is the tan and white building there, which is a bakery in the ground floor with apartments above. The tan tiled facade design comes from the diner set, so it's part of the building that had this snot built section on the outside, so I've done that on each floor, and I've used a lot of gold and white to make it ornate and a bit fancy. And for all the signage, I used the bakery stickers from a 2019 sticker sheet from Lego. I think it looks lovely. There is a full interior for the bakery, which again I'll cover in a future video. Although the exterior, it still needs to be finished at the side. Lots of exposed areas where I haven't filled in the walls, especially at the rear. I really need to fix all that before I take it to the show. I made the back design a bit different and used more white. The rooftop has a wee attic room and there's some aircon filters. I think it's got a nice clean look around the back, and I've even got some baker's signs here as well. How did the people get into their apartments? I have no idea. The railway line is like the boundary of the city at the moment, with one side complete and the rest under construction. Another finished exterior on this modular, it is the Sanctum Sanctorum Marvel set, but I've made it into a bookstore, and this is now Birch Books, and it's been changed a lot. A big double chimney, a checkered tiled rooftop. The whole back wall has been filled in and made to look quite nice. I've taken out this side door and put windows instead, and I've changed the grills from black to sand green and put tan pieces elsewhere, made it look a bit more appealing and less run down. I suppose the biggest additional feature is the extended height, which is this taller rooftop in sand green. I don't really like the round window, and I might take it out and replace it with the sand green slopes, but for just now it will stay. There's the sign, and I think when you look at this now in its surroundings, it works really well and it looks European and not really like a brownstone or the 1890s New York, which originally the building was. I've also added a nice pink cherry tree on the corner, and I love this as a corner building now. It looks great. I think my favourite for now is the ground floor. I put that blue bench and the plant on the left, and it's a nice clean look. I'm really happy with how it turned out. You might not know this set. It is a turtle van thingy from the Dreams range. I have made it into a camper van, loosely based on a VW camper van. I will get a VW sign for the spare wheel cover. It's got a nice wee interior with a bed and a kitchen area, even a fish tank and a wee doggy. Once I have the VW sign, I'll do a video on this, as I think it's worth covering its transformation. Only problem is it's so wide, it's 8 studs wide, so it's a bit big for my roads. That's why I've kind of put it in a lane, because it's on its own there. Oh, so let's take a look inside. And nothing at all. Well, at least there's a full floor. I will have stuff in it at some point. And the second floor has an actual floor. I've taken the big complicated wall build out and made so much space in here. It's going to be a great bookshop when I get round to it. I put a small staircase in the corner here instead of the enormous one that just didn't work for my ideas as a bookshop. A lot to do with the interiors for most of the modulars, and that'll be covered in future videos, but my main aim was to have finished facades for the city so it can be displayed at shows. There's the shell of my brick bank, that's all that's left, and the botanical gardens. This will all be rebuilt into a train station down here, so again, in the future, a wee while to go until I get round to doing that. This crossing will need looked at, and not really looking forward to figuring any of that out, because I need to ballast the track, so it's going to be a bit of a nightmare. You know, it's quite a cool view from this end here, looking down the street, and then the Chinese restaurant. It all looks nice and finished. The canal just works really well. I think it's all very realistic looking, and that's kind of the aim, of course. You know, the concept I had for the city was, of course, a old school Dutch inspired series of streets which revolve around the canal with bridges, and I wanted a seaplane dock rather than having ships, and in the back it would be more modern with some skyscrapers and really, really tall buildings and more interesting things. You know, it's a wee bit like the Fallout series of games. It's a kind of alternate timeline where companies like Pan Am and Blockbuster, for example, still exist. So there we are, that is me up to date. The next big thing for the city is the Summerlee Lego show in Coatbridge, which is in the middle of October, where I'm taking this all, so I'm going to be packing this all away in boxes ready for transport this week. Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to build my custom street lamps, and I haven't done the telephone wires yet either, but I will get round to that in November. I hope it's been interesting, hopefully a bit inspiring, and also hopefully it's unique. I can't believe I managed to get this front section 99% finished, and it has been a huge journey, so thanks so much for watching and joining me.